Welcome to a very wet and soggy Gloucestershire evening, and you're quite correct, that's not an MX5 alloy, that's actually the Clio 182. It's been a busy period over the last couple of months, and financially as damp and dreary as the Gloucestershire evening weather is tonight. But tonight's video is actually inside to get out of the wet and the rain, and it's going to focus on the oldest car in the collection, my 1993 Mazda MX5, and give you an update of everything that's been happening since the new year on this 28-year-old modern classic. Managed to escape the rain this evening to give you an update on what's been happening with the Mark 1 MX5. Well, two key events that have happened. The first one was the breakdown. So probably to be expected, 28-year-old classic, you're going to have a few niggles at times. But fortunately or unfortunately, the breakdown didn't affect me. It was actually my other half. And I think, to put it into context, that we'd had a few problems just over a year ago that had run on for weeks, if not a couple of months, it ended up being a fuel pump where the engine would just cut. So this was around about February time. The other half had taken the car about 30 miles away into a city, into Bristol. She was just leaving Bristol, and it was the same symptom. The car just cut out on a dual carriageway. She coasted into a lay-by, and then phoned me, and not in great spirits, along the lines of, "That's it. I've had it with this car. It's too old. It's too unreliable. We're selling it." So in the immediate aftermath of a barrage of comments, we got the RAC or breakdown to come out to do roadside assistance, whilst I started thinking what it could be and what checks she could do. And I asked her what the symptoms were, and she said, yeah, everything was going along fine, and literally the engine just died, it's cut out, it's spluttered, it's cut out, nothing. There was all electrics, there was all power, so it's as though there was either an ignition problem or fueling problem. She then said to me, well, there's fuel because there's half a tank. There is half a tank of fuel. When she said those key words, I remembered something that had occurred last summer. And there's a clip now I'm going to show you of a round the Wales trip that my son and I did to try to drive around the coastline of Wales in 24 hours. And this is what I found out during that trip. The one thing we've found out is that the fuel gauge in the MX5 is absolutely all over the place. It's the only fuel gauge that I know that actually goes up. So we were down at a quarter of a tank about 20 miles ago. We're now sat at almost half a tank. Oh my word. That was in August of last year. I realised the fuel gauge wasn't working. I then thought to myself, I can't remember the last time I put fuel in the car. I then had to break the news. Just as I'm about to say, I think I know what it is, she said, the roadside assistants are just arriving. Of which I then pointed out to her that she'd run out of fuel. I then explained what had happened last summer, and then, unsurprisingly, she called me a blundering idiot with lots of expletives in between, whilst I just stood there in sort of relief that it was only fuel, a lack of fuel, and nothing about the car. So fortunately I didn't have the embarrassment of trying to explain that to the roadside assistants, and actually there was a charge for the roadside assistants to drive to the local garage and get 5 litres of fuel. As you can imagine, an hour later, when she arrived back home, the barrage of abuse continued, and slowly, as the days have turned into weeks, that abuse has decayed. There is still the problem that I've still not yet fixed on it, but I was trying to explain to her that modern classics are all that much more fun when they do have to carry a few niggles and problems along the way. She's not taken greatly to that sort of strategy for managing this car, and has told me I've got to fix it ASAP. That was back in February. We're now in May. I'm just hoping she's forgot all about it. So yes, it's still carrying a fuel indication problem, and at the moment we're just doing full refills after 300 clicks on the Odo. So that was the breakdown that never was, and then that was followed in March by the biggest event I ever have each year with the MX5, and that is the dreaded MOT. My other cars, generally, it's just a given. Cars go, sometimes there's the odd thing that gets picked up, but largely it's trouble and pain-free. The MX5, I'm absolutely petrified that the car is rotten, the chassis is dropping out, the sills, the sub-assemblies. So it's always with huge trepidation that I go to the MOT station. And going back to what I did to the car last summer, all the anti-corrosion work that I did on the chassis rails, the sills, the subframes, which is there's a link there to that video. I hope that put it in good position for when the MOT came. So, dropped the car in, several hours later, had the phone call. It's passed. First time. And do you know what? The word must wasn't even mentioned at all. The only feedback that I had, the only advisory, there's a slight weep on one of the struts, but other than that, as a slight advisory, other than that, the car's gone through, straight through the MOT. Absolutely thrilled to pieces with that. And the cars continue to be used. I make sure it gets used at least once every couple of weeks, once a fortnight. It's not had a huge amount of use over the last 4 or 5 months. In fact, it's probably the least used of all the cars, other than the SL500, that's still not really come out at all for various reasons, and I'll pick that up on another video. But I have to say, from the troubles that we had with the fuel pump just over 12 months ago, this has been so low cost. In fact, absolutely, it is the lowest cost of all the cars, and I must admit, the 2 Renaults and the Porsche have all been not necessarily troublesome, but it's been a very financially stressful time over the last couple of months. The 28-year-old veteran is doing a great job at balancing off that cost, because it's just cheap as chips at the moment, and touch wood, she's running great. What's the plan for later this year? Not so sure. We did the big event last year around Wales. I'm thinking about the North Coast 500, but I'm tempted to take the SL 500 for that drive rather than the MX5. So at the moment, nothing per se planned. Apart from, I think an MX5 meet or two would kind of be nice. Go out to the mid Wales and do some great driving through those fantastic and fabulous roads when the weather improves. That's it for this week. That's it for tonight. Hopefully the rain eventually will stop, the sun will come out, and the convertible, the MX5, will have a lot more time on the road. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me the thumbs up, please subscribe and stay tuned, because there'll be another video coming up very, very soon.